This conference will now be recorded.
So I want to thank everybody for joining today. It's been really difficult to schedule meetings. I keep getting, I'll be back on August 28th or September or something. So I'm really delighted that you're all here. We had to schedule 2 sessions because we could not get everybody on the same session. So I just wanted to introduce myself. I'm Cello. All of you guys, I think, know me. And I was originally planning for team members just to briefly announce themselves and introduce themselves. It didn't work so well on some other sessions because there were audio problems. So let's try it really quickly. And if we start having technical issues, then we'll stop. So just unmute yourself. How about if I call you and then you can introduce yourself? So make it easier. Otherwise, people talk over each other. Darren.
Hello, I'm Darren Geldert. I work with Loudon Water. We're in Northern Virginia. I'm a senior planning engineer.
Thank you, Darren. Jessica?
Hey, I'm Jessica Dezar, also from Loudon Water with Darren, and I'm an asset management program director.
Thank you, Jessica. Steve Saltzman?
Hi, good morning, everyone. My name is Steve Tolzman. I'm with the King County Wastewater Treatment Division in the Seattle metropolitan area of Washington State, and I am a capital project manager in the comprehensive planning unit for the utility here.
Thank you, Steve. Stephen?
Yeah, hello, I'm Steve Sechrist with Gwinnett County, Georgia's Department of Water Resources. And I work supporting the water production plants, the operations side. And I'm in a group that does technical support for the operations group. So a lot of times we're developing new capital projects for them, but occasionally we get involved also in business case evaluations and developing CIPs.
Thank you. Dan?
Good morning, I'm Dan Ott. I'm with KC Water in Kansas City, and I'm the project management section head. And I also work with Zach Monroe and Scott Parker, so glad to be here.
Thank you, Dan. Zach? Zach, you're muted.
Yep. I was trying to get my camera on, but it doesn't appear to want to work right now.
Okay.
As Dan mentioned, I'm also at KC Water. I work under Dan as the project scheduler.
Okay, thank you. And Scott?
Good morning, I'm Scott Parker. I am the asset manager for KC Water.
Thank you. So this is the list of people that we have currently on these 2 initiatives. As you can see, some of them are on both business case evaluation and CIP, and some of them are just in one group. And I will come back to this slide later, but we have very good representation, and I think there'll be a lot of good sharing of information and excitement on this project. Very brief recap, because some of the people haven't been on the project for very long. We have been, our first year was in 2016 to 2017. We focused on developing business process models. Utilities did it independently for areas or topics that were of higher priority of them. So that was really the focus, just on business process modeling. And we also used a maturity model that illustrated how, when we document the processes, we go from level 2, where knowledge resides within a team, to level 3, where the knowledge is actually documented, how we do things, and it is can be used for improvements. We developed guidelines for the business process models and a number of business process models as well. And most of you are familiar that we use BPMN notation, which is standard ISO notation that includes these swim lanes to show who's involved, that it can be that some of these boxes that show activities are actually processes that can be broken down into similar diagrams that are hierarchically below. And also that we strive to indicate what kind of documents are produced or used by these different activities, what kind of systems are used, and so forth. So these models basically are describing who's involved, what's the sequence of activities, what decisions need to be made, what resources we need, metrics, and what data we need, and what systems we need to use. And so these are utilities that have been participating. They all shared these models into something that we call water sector value model, which is a conglomeration of these things, of these models that are developed individually, and it increases in level of detail as you go down the hierarchy. So in year 2, because we didn't develop these models just for the sake of developing models, utilities use this documentation of how they do things to design some improvements. So that means that they moved in the maturity model to a situation where they can predict how things are going to work and manage things in a quantitative way. These are some of the examples of the case studies that have been developed. Orange County Pump Station Renewal and Replacement, Washington Suburban Sanitary Commission Construction Inspection Process Improvement, City of Grand Rapids Cross-Media Electronic Reporting. So in addition to models, we also had these case studies. So last year, which was the 3rd year of the project, we introduced a collaborative component. Scott Haskins is the one who really initiated the collaborative aspect of this project. So utilities joined to work together on some areas that were high priority for them. Again, the utility partners and the four topics of interest that we were looking at. So right now, as we move forward, we are going to be moving to actually make some improvements in these areas, because right now we have mostly just high-level models. A nice thing about the project is that it includes a network of peers. These are shots from our workshop in Oregon last September. I think looking back, these kind of days look like they're in the distant past, but it was very productive time. Around 40 people joined. So the products of this year 1, these models and the artifacts, documents, presentations, and things that people shared, which is that they're in this shared knowledge base that is in the green box, and the water sector value model. These are the products of the last year of year 1. And these products are going to be used as resources as we move forward into year 2. So we want to use the stuff that was done before to then, in year 2, provide updates to the water sector value model and the artifacts and the metrics so that it gets better in quality and quantity. And also, it'll be really marvelous if we could actually have some case studies of actual improvements. So therefore, we encourage folks not to try to model the world, but to just kind of focus on things that are manageable within about a 9-month time frame, so that the case study was actually include the planning for improvement and actually doing some improvements. And again, and this was a point made really, really well by representatives from Kansas City, is that we really need to demonstrate the value that these approaches can bring. So these documents that we're going to be relying on are all posted. This is just like where they are on OneDrive. If you have any trouble finding this, you can let me know. We have kind of a map to help you navigate it. Also, the water sector value model is there. It also resides in Signavio. These are kind of technical details that we can discuss as we go forward. And again, you don't need to sort of like model the world. You can just model specific parts of whether it's CIP delivery or business case evaluation. So these are all the deliverables, where they're posted and stuff like that. Excuse me. So there is a yes, sorry.
Yeah, maybe I'll
open
just
up for questions. Sorry.
Maybe we could ask if there are any questions so far, and I would just summarize the entirety of what Cello said, is that this particular year 2 of this process takes what's already been developed and then puts you in a position to apply this model, tailor it to your own situation, tweak it as necessary, ultimately turn it into what Cello is calling a case study. But the idea is that you take the whole process, but more likely part of the process, and you develop it in your utility. So I'll stop there, but if there are any questions so far, go ahead and chime in. A couple of you've already heard some of this spiel in other team meetings. Any questions for Cello? Clear, good.
Okay, sorry guys, I'm just kind of rushing ahead, trying to be sensitive to everybody's time. So, and sometimes when I get into it, I don't, I get tunnel vision. So the schedule that we posted, we have 9 months to create some value. That's what we want to do, create some value for each utility. So this is a generic schedule that I posted, but it doesn't mean that everybody has to time things this way, do things this way. It just follows that kind of a process where we learn about document something, analyze, improve, and implement. So it is just a template, but I would be more than happy to work with each organization separately to figure out how they can rearrange or adjust this to reflect their own conditions, their needs, their priorities, their resources. So it's just sort of a generic guideline. And I want to say that we're back to participants. I will be asking a question whether we should have, because these processes, the business case evaluation and the CIP delivery, are very tightly kind of, there's interaction between them, they're connected. And at least half the participants we have are signed into both. So one of the things I'd like to ask is if we should, when we schedule, let's say, our bi-weekly meetings, should we schedule them, these two groups, separately? Should we have them together and maybe have like a bit longer, maybe 90 minutes instead of 60 minutes? So that's something that is an open question that, I wanted to discuss. And I also wanted to say that we put together a collaboration platform in Microsoft Teams. I've had several sessions. There's a video, at least 2 videos where I explain how this works. And I'm trying to address the fact that people had kind of trouble looking around OneDrive and figuring out where is the information that they need. So right now we have different groups that I specialize for specific topics in different channels. People can post things. People can access OneDrive from Microsoft Teams. If you'd like more detail, I'll either have a conference call with you or I'll send you a video to watch and get acquainted. But this was really intended to facilitate the communication between the utilities and also who are working on the same thing, and also serve as a repository of information. So you can see that this is highlighted, this business case evaluation channel, and there are a number of you who and you can sign up for any of these channels. So the things that I would like to get to is the interactive part of the call and discuss some questions. So for example, in our experience, to have bi-weekly conference calls for a team is really useful. Weekly is a little bit of a burden for people, and not enough happens in a week to report on it. And bi-week and monthly is sort of not enough. So I want to stop at this point and see how people feel about that, if that is adequate or not adequate frequency.
Don't be shy.
Yes, Scott, what do you think?
Yeah, well, I think your second question is,
Sorry,
a key one. Yeah.
I'm sorry, that's my fault. I meant Scott Parker because I see him there. He always says good things today. Sorry about that.
Yep.
That's my fault.
That's okay. That's okay. I would say, so I think there's a couple things I'm just considering my own schedule too, Cello, so sorry to be selfish maybe with it, but I would assume that others on the call have a similar stance that I do. First of all, I guess the second one to me is, the second question, it makes sense, at least I think for KC Water folks, to have them sort of together, simply because that is going to be one less meeting than if we tried to do them separately. And it's hard enough for me to get time to do even one meeting every couple of weeks, personally. Oops, can you go back to that? Like, thank you. So I would say the only other thing I guess I would say too is on the conference call, the biweekly, like it's maybe we schedule it, but we want to make sure that we're using that time as effectively as possible to have like a real topic to discuss, right? So if we don't have one, that's meaningful to the entirety of the group, we can cancel it or whatever. Only because, again, I'm sorry, I would love to be able to commit a lot of time to this. I can commit some time to it, and it's hard enough. It's funny. It's hard enough for us to even have this meeting. We actually have a standing BCE CIP meeting in our group, three of which of us that are on this call. And I would say that meeting gets canceled. It's supposed to be weekly. It gets canceled probably half the time as well, just because of our schedules. So that would be my take.
Okay, well, that's very valuable. That's exactly what I wanted to get. So I think that you would agree that biweekly is okay, but you would propose that, and the reason that I departed from, I was trying to just make the notes right now. So I also got a couple of messages that biweekly schedule is okay, and it seems like there may be agreement that merging the two groups would be better, especially for people who are participating in both topics.
At least for us, Cello,
sorry,
finish my point there. I guess for us, these two things we found that in our efforts so far, they're pretty inextricably linked. So it makes sense to me to have them at the same time. So for whatever that's worth.
So Darren,
thank you so much.
What about Jessica, Stephen? Any comments on this?
Hi, Steve Tolzman. I like biweekly, and I'm in favor of merging them. I'm interested and involved in both topics at my utility, so for me, there's a nice synergy there.
I think less meetings is good, so I'm happy with the combination. I'm technically only on the BCE, but I'm happy to kind of learn and listen on the other one as well. So whatever works for the group is good.
Stephen and Dan, maybe Scott was speaking for you as well, but and Zach, but what about the rest of you?
Yeah, this is Dan. Yeah, I'm right in line with what Scott said, so that sounds good to me.
Okay, that's really good. That's really good. I would agree that was my sort of take on things, but I didn't want, I wanted to really hear what you guys think. And in order to simplify things, we have some people from, we have 4 people who are from the UK. And the only time that actually works for both West Coast people and the UK, because there's an 8-hour difference, is really 7:30 in the morning Pacific, which would be 10:30 Eastern, and it's 3:30 in the afternoon for the British. So really, if it's a bi-weekly call, it is really about picking a day of the week when we would, because we don't want to exclude people. And we also have people in Denmark that would be easier for them. So it would really come for these bi-weekly meetings, what day of the week it is. So we don't have everybody on the call here, but I just want to take this opportunity to say, is there a day of the week that's easier for people? And just to, or I can send out a survey. But the problem with the surveys is I send out these doodle polls and stuff, and people don't respond, and they're and they're not. It's really and I want to get going and start getting stuff done. On the other hand, I want to get input from people because they're the critical force in all this. So can we have just a quick conversation? Is there a day of the week that works better for people? And then we'll see if we can at least, figure out some proposed dates. Anybody?
Cello, I guess I'll go first again. This is Scott from KC Water.
Sure.
The toughest days for me are Friday and Tuesday. I have standing meetings at that time that I just simply cannot get out of. So Monday for me is actually not a bad day personally. Wednesday I think could work. Would probably be my second choice. And then yeah, the other days are a lot more difficult, and particularly Friday and Monday. Those are completely out. And Dan is also in the meeting, I know, on Friday as well. So I don't know if that helps, but
Okay.
those are probably the best. Those are probably the best for I guess myself personally. So.
Okay, so Monday and Wednesday seem like good for Scott, and Friday is bad. How do you guys feel about Mondays or Wednesdays?
Monday works for me.
Great.
Monday.
Steve Tolzman?
Monday's fine for me.
Okay. So I will, any other thoughts? So I guess so I will propose, when I talk to the other, half of this group on Wednesday, I will propose that we schedule this for Monday. Now, the people that we have on the call today, I had to split it in 2 groups, otherwise we'd never be able to schedule it for everybody.
They couldn't make it on Monday. So
That's correct.
We'll see what they say, right?
Yeah, so I'll see what they say. So if they can agree with Monday, it's great. But if we need to, if they all want to have Wednesday, then I don't know what we're gonna do, arm wrestle for it or whatever. But I will propose Monday, and then I'll see if we can make that happen. Okay. So the other thing I want to say is I want to also emphasize what Scott said, is that from now on, you know, I felt that because we have a mixture of people, some who are much more recent and some people who have been with us for 3 years, I talked a little bit more than I like, and the idea is not for me to talk during these calls. So we will, our biweekly meetings should really have utility partners up front, and it should be, our goal would be to have them more interactive, to have you know, your input in shape before the calls, to make sure that we have stuff to discuss and things to decide and action items and stuff like that. So I just want to say, not every call is going to be you know, this kind of loose, and I just wanted to confirm that there was sort of a reminder for me. The other thing I want to say, it'd be great if you could just start using this Microsoft Teams platform, just see if it's going to work for us, because I'm trying to find a way, we're trying to find a way where everybody can also you know, exchange messages and just really start building up the peer-to-peer connections and communications as much as we can. There is also a channel that we started called peer-to-peer collaboration, which is intended, and it's open to everybody, for people who have a question. But for example, I've received emails from people saying, well, you know, we're starting a project management office. I want to know how other people are doing it. Or we're planning for reopening after COVID is gone. And what are other people doing about it? So it's not really in the scope of our project, but I thought it would be nice to have a space like that here, where if somebody has a question like that, they can post it. We can create a place where people can post their information, files, artifacts, whatever, and share with each other. So we have a space like that as well. And there are also obviously channels that are for your teams. So if you can start using it, because it'll be good test to see if it's working or not. So if it's not working, you know, well, I'll have to fix it. And it's kind of like the telephone, you know, if there's just one telephone, it's not very useful. And collaboration platform is not very useful or tested unless there are people who are collaborating. So when you get a chance, if you can go there, if you need information, let me know. But let's start and see if it's working. Any comments on that? Has anybody been there? Or
I think Scott or Dan have communicated on an issue that Mert raised on hydrant inspection, actually. Isn't that right? So you've started that kind of communication already.
Yeah, Scott, this is Dan. We're plugged in on Microsoft Teams here in Kansas City. That's pretty much how I spend most of my days now. So we're very familiar with that platform and happy to use it. And I'm already plugged in on what Cello's set up, so it's working great.
Great, thank you. The last question is, and that says, right now we're using GoToMeeting, and like many other things, there's a history behind it because WRF established the GoToMeeting platform, and then it was, to make long the story short, I created one separate from WRF because it was more easy to administrate and control. But since we have a collaboration platform in Microsoft Teams, we could also, I'm not, you know, I've had meetings successfully done in GoToMeeting, in Zoom, in Microsoft Teams, in Google Meet, and I was considering to maybe move to Microsoft Teams. The only wrinkle in that is that if we use Microsoft Teams for conference calls, I cannot share the screen if I want to talk about something that actually resides in Microsoft Teams. So I just, because then Microsoft Teams is in a phone call, and I can't be having a separate screen where I browse around and tell you, okay, this is where we put here, this is what we put there. So that's my reservation about using Microsoft Teams. I want to see what people feel, what are you using in your organizations, what do you think would make sense? So Steve Tolzman, what are they're using at King County?
We're primarily using Microsoft Teams, and we use Zoom as well, not using GoToMeeting or Google Meet. So either, yeah, I think, it's kind of all the platforms have their pros and cons, as does every type of software. So I don't have a strong opinion on which way to go.
Okay. So Dan and Scott, as far as GoToMeeting, you see, my only reservation to go to fully Microsoft Teams is the one that I mentioned, that if we're having a call in Microsoft Teams, we can't be poking around and sharing screen because we're also using it as a collaboration platform. So if you have thoughts about it or something comes up, you get an idea later, just let me know, because I want to make things easy for people. And I know that each one of these platforms has its own wrinkles, just like Steve Tolzman said. And would like to find something that most people are comfortable with. So the next thing is really, questions. If there are any questions that you guys have, or any thoughts, any input, and this is the time to speak up.
Cello, this is Scott. I think you're good. I'm sorry, I'm going to have to step off the meeting. I think everything is good, and look forward to get going. I think we've already kind of got some things to share with the group even. So anyway, I just wanted to let you know I appreciate you putting all this together, and look forward to our next call.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Scott. So
all right.
This is all.
Be good, everyone.
Thank you very much, Scott, and take care. So this is all I intended to do today, and I'll have one more session on Wednesday and try to nail all this down. So I will send out when we decide, after consulting with people on Wednesday, I hope it'll be Monday, I will send immediately invites for the rest of the year, so you have it on your calendar, so it's there, it's marked. And then it's very exciting to see here that Kansas City may have something ready to share by the first biweekly meeting. And I just want to give one more chance for people to ask questions before we close the call, and you guys can get on with your busy days. So any other questions?
Can I ask you one general question? I've poked around a little bit in some of the background materials, and hearing some people have been involved in this for 2 or 3 years, and this is our first year. Is there a best place to start, or a best place to get an idea of what they might like to aim for this year? Maybe I'll just wait for future calls, but
well, what I don't, yeah, we've developed what's like a folder for like onboarding, but even there, if you work on things for 3 years, and there are currently like 80 people doing different things, there's 38 people on initiative on actively participating in these improvement initiatives, and we also have 43 people on the people topics participating. So with more than 80 people doing different things, you know, it's not easy to have. So between the four, you know, improvement initiatives and 3 top, we have 7 things going in parallel, and this is the 4th year. So it's not, it takes a little while. However, I can point you to some things, but it might be more useful if we have a conference call and I can understand what your focus is, what your needs are, and then send, you know, kind of send you to a place that's going to be most relevant for your interests. And then you can kind of start there first, and then kind of catch up as we go. So if you are open to that, I'd be happy. It may be more effective if it's not just you and maybe a couple of other people from your organization if they're participating. And I wouldn't mind, you know, spending an hour with them, just kind of talk to help me understand where to point you, because there's just like so much out there.
Okay, thanks.
In addition to that, you know, Darren and those of you who haven't been part of this so far, Kansas City, as you've heard, obviously has, and some others that aren't on the call have. But a useful starting place, you know, maybe even in the next call, would be to run through what the current, you know, developed models are for, you know, project delivery as well as BCEs, so that you have that as a base of understanding. And if you have questions about that, you could follow up. But if we're kind of starting with that, and then you're adapting or, you know, tailoring in your own circumstance, that might be a useful thing to do on a team call, so everyone's sort of starting from the same place.
Yes, absolutely. And one thing that may not be a bad idea is to look at our report that we published for year 1, which is actually year 3, but year 1 with WRF, the first 2 years were with WERF. So the report, I will send you a link to actually 2 documents. One is, if you haven't seen our year 1 report, I'll send you a link to that. The other document that may be useful is our work plan for year 2. It has a lot of detail and what is the scope of work for the improvement initiative and so forth. So I think those are very useful documents to get a bigger picture, because you'll see everything. In the year 1 report, you will also see what Scott is talking about, because it includes the models that were developed during last year collaboratively on these 4 topics. So I will send, if you haven't seen those documents, I will send you a link to those 2 documents, and I think that they may be helpful. But in addition to that, I'd be more than happy to set up the call.
Sounds good.
Okay, thank you.
Hi, Cello, Steve Tolzman. Apologize for this, but can you send the team's invite to me one more time?
Of course, yeah. So you did not receive it, is that correct?
I did, and I didn't get on it right away, and now I can't dig it out of my inbox. I've been searching here during the meeting to try to find it.
Okay, so
yeah.
What I may have to do, I will try to do that. I may have to like delete you and put you back in, because
Okay.
I don't know. So if I do that, it may take up to 12 hours for Microsoft to sort of go through all their traffic lights and allow that to happen. But I will go in, I'll find your contact, your member contact. I'll probably have to delete it and reinstate it. So hopefully that should take care of things.
Okay, thank you. I apologize.
No problem at all. No problem. No need to apologize. Any other questions or comments? So I'll stop the recording now.